Island over towards Bluegrass. Now, currently we are not in that warning, but off towards the west, that's where we're picking up those 80-mile-per-hour winds. And you're probably wondering, you know, what's causing this today. You walked outside today, you could literally wear that weather. It was so muggy out there, and all the ingredients were there. We had warm, moist air. We had the unstable air because the sun came out today, and boy, it's really starting to fire off right now.
Yeah. And what happens as kind of the evening progresses? The sun goes completely away. Does that sort of lower our chances?
You know, they need the energy, and when the sun goes down, we do lose some of the energy, but these storms are so strong, they're continuing to go on at this time. We got another 4 minutes on this tornado warning right now, but I mean, the biggest issue right now we're going to have is torrential rain falling right now into Muscatine, and we're probably picking up some very strong winds right now in Muscatine, probably in the neighborhood of, I want to double check here. Yeah, we're talking 80-mile-per-hour winds and quarter-size hail with this storm that is moving into Muscatine right now. So let's go ahead and reset and see where we're at, folks. I don't want to discount you folks off towards the south, north of Burlington, but we do have a severe thunderstorm warning down there, but 60-mile-per-hour winds and quarter-size hail. This is a beast, though, that we're dealing with right now that's moving into Muscatine. We have the severe thunderstorm warning. That warning will go in effect until 8:15, and I do think if it continues on its current track, it will get extended because this storm does not appear to be letting up whatsoever. But we still have to take precautions with that tornado warning for northwestern Muscatine County, where we think that there's the possibility of a tornado just to the east of Highway 70, southwest of the Atalissa area. Hopefully this tornado warning does not get extended. The good news is it only has 3 more minutes on it, so it looks like they might not extend it, but our fingers are crossed that the threat will pass. But still, either way, once this tornado warning expires, we're still dealing with a storm with 80-mile-per-hour winds. I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at. 60-mile-per-hour winds. All right, anybody, you know, we can handle that, but 80 is really getting up there. Let's get the velocity on this so we can see how strong those winds are coming into Muscatine.
And as we've seen with some of these power outages, you know, the number's pretty stable right now in that Iowa City area in Johnson County at about, 1,200 customers who are out. But even, 60 miles an hour, even something even less than that can knock off a tree limb,
Absolutely.
which knocks down a power line. And again, we don't necessarily know that that's what has happened, but this is what we often see when we are tracking these storms and watching these storms, that this is often the result of, these warnings and the high winds that you're seeing.
Yes. These winds are showing pretty consistent right around the 60 mile per hour. We did have reports of 80 mile per hour winds with this storm as it's moving into Muscatine. Still waiting to see whether or not that tornado warning drops. Right now, it looks like it will be allowed to expire and they won't renew it, but still, either way, we still have to take it seriously for at least the next couple of minutes here. Let's go back to the radar here so we can reset things and show you folks what the latest is. Okay, so we still have the flash flood warning off towards the north of Clinton. The good news there is the rain has stopped up that way. Severe thunderstorm warnings off towards the south, north of the Burlington area. We still have a severe thunderstorm warning to the southeast of Kewanee, but once again, the beast we just got it extended. Okay, so we now have a new tornado warning in effect. It does include the Quad Cities until 8:30 p.m. Obviously, the main threat, the tornado, and we could be looking at some penny-sized hail. So now is the time, Quad Cities, it is time to take your precautions. We have the time to do it, but now is the time to do it. Lowest level interior room, basically put as many walls between you and the tornado as possible. Again, we have a tornado warning in effect for Scott County. That would include the entire Quad Cities area, including the airport, including the station. And that's going to go in effect until 8:30 p.m. Let's go ahead and put a tracker on this one. And it's showing movement at 40 miles per hour.
And as you look at that, Evan, just a good reminder right now, download the News 8 app, the Storm Track 8 app. Have that on your phone before this storm gets to you. Anyone who's in the path that Evan is illustrating right now.
Sorry to interrupt you, John. Do not look at those times. They were incorrect. I'm going to put a new tracker on this. These are the times you want to look at as this storm is moving off towards the east at about 40 miles per hour. So we have about 20 minutes here in the Quad Cities. Walcott at 7:50, Mount Pelier at 7:48, and Rock Island at 8:06 for this tornado warning. Again, this is just a radar indicated tornado. Nothing has been confirmed at this time, But obviously now is the time to take your precautions. You folks have time, but you need to get moving. Time to get to the lowest level into your room in your house. Remember, mobile homes are never safe for tornado-warned storms. Okay, so the northwestern Muscatine County tornado warning has dropped like we expected it to, but it has been extended for portions of Scott County until 8:30 p.m. And it's going to be right along Highway 61 over towards Walcott, into the northwestern part of the Quad Cities, over towards Davenport, and into Rock Island.
Yeah, and 8 o'clock will be here in moments, really.
In moments, yes. We're going to be hearing the sirens here any second if they haven't already gone off. Meteorologist James Zahara is here. He'll be coming in here in just a second. We'll put him on. All right, let's do a little bit of a pull out here, just a little bit here, so you folks can get the whole picture. Like I said, we're dealing with numerous severe thunderstorm warnings right now. The biggest is going to be moving into the Quad Cities right now. Regardless of the tornado warning, we're still dealing with a storm that's packing winds of 80 miles per hour, or potentially up to 80 miles per hour, along with some quarter-sized hail. So,
and James, what have you been watching?
Yeah, nice job, Evan, by the way, as far as monitoring and tracking this particular storm. You know, we got a lot of ingredients right there, not as far as producing some of this very heavy rainfall, blinding rain that's going on, but this tremendous downdraft that is going on within this particular storm is producing those strong, intense winds that have been registered between 60 and even estimates as high as 80 miles an hour. And I think, John, you were kind of talking about the potential of some power outages that may be going on as well. So that's the big concern that we're seeing right now with that particular line right here. Now, there could be a little couplet right here that may be indicating that possible little twist that may be going on. You can see it right there, little bit indentation right there, little couplet, and that's probably why they extended the tornado warning. Let's not worry about shear, Evan. Let's just go ahead and focus on what we'll be focusing on the velocity, and we're going to be focusing on the reflectivity that's going on as well, because keep in mind, there is just copious amounts of moisture that is coming down from these very slow-moving storms. And this is where we have the potential for some flash flooding. But the really big concern is not just only that, but the very heavy rain that's coming down from this particular storm as it makes its way eastward. Evan, let's do this. Let's go ahead and put a tracker on that. Let's go ahead and put that on there and extend it to the Quad Cities itself, to the very edge that we got right here. And let's go ahead and pop that up so you can see if everything is working out properly given the speed of this. Right now it's 7:48. We're talking about maybe reaching the immediate Quad Cities just close to 10 after 8 itself. And around Walcott, I would say around 7:54. That's about 6 minutes from now. So if you are in the path, if you're hearing the sirens, don't go out and look for it, okay? The sirens are there because it's time to get to that safe place, all right? So that's why we have that warning out. You can see the little couplet right there that's likely indicating maybe some type of twist that's taking place. At the same time, too, and just from the reflectivity mode here, you can actually see this bending right here, okay? That's where the real intense winds are taking place, and this has had a history of producing some power outages. So keep that in mind if you're in that particular part of the storm as that continues to make its way off to the, I believe, east-southeast. Let's do this, Evan. Why don't you take this off? Let's put a quick radar loop on this if we can and kind of show that movement. So you can see it's right on the edge of that polygon. That's kind of the track of it. So if you're watching us around Andalusia, in fact, let's get even closer still if we can, and then bring it up a little bit. So let's get some of those other towns. Montpelier, be on guard. It is just at least a minute away from you. Once again, we're talking about winds between 60 and 80 miles an hour. Some power outages going on. So hopefully you've got your flashlights ready to go. Okay, they're fully charged. Make sure, I'm going to make this perfectly clear. Make sure you have one of these, okay? Make sure you have the weather app all ready to go, because once the power out is out, you won't be able to get any more sources except from this phone, okay, from the app. So make sure that you have that already going. You're going to be just fine before the storm is all said and done. But keep in mind, it's moving around east-southeast. It's producing a great amount of moisture as well. Some areas may get a quick half an inch or inch of rain, and some of those poor drainage areas can't hold it. You're going to get some street flooding as well from that storm. Once again, tornado warning out for this. That does include the immediate Quad Cities. Right now, iHeart radio stations are actually monitoring us as we speak. And once again, we will stay on the air until the threat is all said and done. I know we have the CMAs going on, one of my favorite parts, but we're talking about a very life-threatening situation here, especially when we're dealing with some of the activity that has been going on with the power outages, the winds. There can be a potential, maybe some damage as well. I know I've got a couple of train spotters that are out and about monitoring the situation right here, see if they're noticing any damage as those storms quickly make their way off to the east-southeast. So we have the tornado warning here. We also have a severe thunderstorm warning, and let's go ahead and expand this out a little bit more, Evan. Thank you very much. And that extends all the way. This is actually the severe thunderstorm warning here that is just west of the immediate Quad Cities. And then within that, this is the area right here where we're seeing the most intense winds and the potential for seeing some type of spin that is going on as well from that storm as it makes its way off to the east. There's another severe thunderstorm warning up to our north of the immediate Quad Cities, but likely we're not seeing much of as far as any activity with this. Not sure, Evan, do you know offhand? I'm not near my computer.
Yeah, go ahead.
Offhand, this warning is until when? I got to zoom in a little bit closer here.
Let me get it for you.
To this particular area.
That warning is going to go in effect until 8:45 p.m.
Okay, so another 15 minutes, and likely, given what we're seeing here, that warning is likely going to be canceled right here. This warning that we're seeing right here, that will very likely be canceled as well. So likely we're going to be dealing with these two warnings, the tornado warning that does include the immediate Quad Cities until 8:30, and then with outside of that box, outside of that polygon, we have that severe thunderstorm warning as well, likely going on about 8:15 or 8:30, probably around 8:15, I would say, with that particular polygon. So that's kind of what we're dealing with right here as these storms quickly, I wouldn't say quickly, they're moving very slowly from out of the east-southeast, but within this line that we're seeing right here, right in here, that is where we're getting the strongest of the winds as they continue to make their way off to the east. Evan, I was wondering, do you have from our friends at the National Weather Service, our good friends at the National Weather Service, they always are keeping in touch with other spotters as well. Any type of information from them.
Why don't you log in? I'll take over for just a minute or two.
Go right ahead.
Okay,
I'll be right there with you.
All right, folks, let's reset everything and show you what we've got right now. Like James said, our number one threat right now is this tornado warning that's moving into the Quad Cities. Tornado warning in effect until 8:30 p.m. You folks in Bluegrass, you are right under the gun right now. Now is the time to take your precautions. You need to be at the lowest level. Interior room, remember, put as many walls between you and the tornado as possible. Montpelier, it's coming into your area right now, right along Iowa Highway 22, US Highway 61, and that's going to be moving into the Quad Cities here within the next 20 minutes or so. Besides the tornado, we're also dealing with tremendously strong winds, especially just to the east of the Muscatine area. We've had reports of 80-mile-per-hour winds that way. Hail is also a concern. We've seen hail up to the size of quarters with this storm. We're already picking up the rain here in the Quad Cities, and now we are under, they did finally issue us a severe thunderstorm. We're under a severe thunderstorm warning here in the Quad Cities. Let me get the official time on that. Severe thunderstorm warning in effect until 9 p.m. for the Quad Cities. It does include Rock Island, Moline, and if you folks over in Kelowna, now is the time to start taking your precautions as the storm continues to make its way towards the east. Still just a radar-indicated tornado at this time, but still we have to take it very seriously. So once again, moving into the Bluegrass area right now, Montpelier, Andalusia, it's coming up in your way here in just a few minutes.
Let's go back to that velocity mode if we can once again. So we've been chatting extensively regarding to the intense winds that we're noticing. Just looks like around Bluegrass itself. This is velocity mode, folks. This is where the raindrops are moving toward or away from the radar site. So where you're seeing the red, that's moving away from the radar site. When you're noticing the green, it's moving toward the radar site. And you can see those little couplets that we just have to monitor. It doesn't look like much. Keep in mind, there's only so much that we can see on the radar, but this is something that we always are concerned about with these big wind threats, is that you get a little brief spin up ahead of it. You can see a little couplet there, maybe even one you can see just on Western Avenue there along 120th Street. You can see those are the two kind of we're keeping an eye out. But once again, this is radar indicated. We're just trying to get some eyes out there to see that if we're seeing any type of twist that is going on. Keep in mind that when we go to reflectivity mode, it's just a blotch of heavy rain too. So this could be possibly even wrapped as well. But no question, no matter if it's spinning or matter if it's just a straight line, it has caused damage. At least we got reports of damaging winds in the past 10 to 15 minutes from this storm, as that part of the storm, as it continues to make its way off toward the east, Evan.
Did they trim off the part of the tornado warning southwest of Durant?
Looks like they did a little bit, yeah, just off to the west, and we're hoping that will continue until this warning is all said and done. So we pretty much have another half an hour or so ago before we can give everyone, hopefully, the all clear on that. But once again, everyone's putting on the tracker. That's good, because you know why? That's what we do. That's what we
809 in the Quad Cities.
That's right.
804 in Linwood.
Let's even try and, let's do this. Let's take that one off and even extend it a little bit more if we can. So we want to make sure, let's kind of widen the shot just a little bit more, because we want to get our friends out in Pleasant Valley, Bettendorf, East Moline, maybe even around Kelowna. So if we stretch it out a little bit more, once again, if the speed of the storm doesn't change, then we kind of get an idea now what we're looking at. So we're still looking just close to 10 after 8. That's another 15 minutes or so from now, okay, in the immediate Quad Cities. And I would say, and I can see that we got to work on this right here, because it kind of shows them the Quad Cities, 809 got Moline and East Moline. You know what we can do? Given what I'm seeing right here, Evan.
Just go with 809.
Let's focus on these times that we have here. 8:14 around Moline, 8:20 around East Moline. Look at the difference that we see, 6 minutes. I mean, they're right next to each other, but that just tells you the movement of this particular storm. And then our friends in Kelowna, we're talking about 8:27. So just about a half an hour or so before that part of the storm makes its way through here. But once again, tornado warning out till 8:30. We can hear sirens going on out there.
Let's zoom in on Bluegrass.
Absolutely.
Take a look at this couplet, see if we have something going on over here with that. Just over the, not too bad, but there is that little kink in the radar just to the northwest.
Just a little bit. Now and that's a good sign, Evan, too. You know, you've done your fair share of some chasing as well, and, you know, we always have to worry about these little kinks right here. And most cases, they're not all great. You know, the structure is not all too great. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, though, I mean, you look for those kinks in the radar, because that's where you would normally see a spin up in a tornado.
Exactly, exactly. And once again, it's just not that kink, but it's the line itself that has produced winds around 80 miles an hour. We've had reports of power outages given behind this system as well. So that's why we're really concerned about this storm as it makes its way eastward, because if those winds are still going on, remember, there's only so much that we see on the radar, but if those winds are still going on and is producing those power outages, well, guess what? If it holds that path, we could very likely see that in most parts of the immediate Quad Cities heading in the next 20 minutes or so. So that's why we are on nonstop programming here, given this particular setup. But we're talking about also some extremely heavy rain going on here. Some areas going to get a quick half-inch of rain, very short period of time. So, of course, for commuters, that is definitely a challenge, and that extends all the way far south, right through Rock Island, Mercer County right here. There's Aledo right there. So these storms, it's slowly advancing its way off to the east. If we can do a quick loop here, Evan, and I'll toss it right back to you. And see, we got, and check on what's going on the National Weather Service chat. Now, you see that move and kind of make it its way from east-southeast, okay? Not moving much, but you can see how things are really starting to blow up right just north of Highway 34 itself. Once again, very heavy rain, almost a training possibly going on in some of these towns, so that's where we could get some pretty high rainfall amounts as well. And that was continue on off to the south and east. Remember, severe thunderstorm watch is still out for areas right along the I-80 corridor and points southward until later on tonight. So that's kind of why we have all this action that is taking place. Once this moves on by, then we're talking about dropping those temperatures, dropping that humidity, at least for a couple of days or so, before we start seeing some more heat, humidity, and possibly some more active weather as well. Let's go and take it to John real quick here. John, any more updates when it comes to power outages or anything like that?
Just a couple things I wanted to mention. One thing, James, yeah, we're seeing more outages, about 1,500 at this point, and this is mostly between Mid-American and Alliant Energy customers. Really in the path of the storm. The other thing I wanted to just kind of bring to everyone's attention, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, James, here, but it's worth mentioning, so we mention it now. In the event that we begin to sense that we need to go to our safe place here in this building, what can viewers expect from us? Because the radar will stay on the screen and we'll keep broadcasting.
Our microphones, yeah, we will go to our safe place here. We will have our microphones on and try to, given what we have on our Storm Track 8 weather app and what we're getting from our friends at the National Weather Service, we'll be able to go through that route. But we'll be able to keep the radar on as much as we can unless we lose power here.
Right.
So that's our only thing. And hopefully we don't, knock on wood, we don't get to that point.
Yep.
So that's something that we have in the back of our minds just in case, given the situation that we have going on right now. So once again, we got all the ingredients there for some blinding rain. We kind of been hinting on this ever since last night, that we still had to get through this wave of some very intense storms that are going on. There have been, we did talk about the possibility of maybe seeing some isolated tornadoes from this. The share is not all too great. That's why these have been just some brief spin-ups, some that we question if they actually touched the ground or not. We certainly have that in areas around Miles. They actually had a spotter out there that said that there was a brief touchdown up in Miles in Jackson County earlier on this evening, but that has really been it. So that's kind of what we're dealing with right now.
Not seeing too much on the CC either, so that's some good news.
Otherwise, what we call the debris tracker, the debris. We just don't see that from that, so that is some fairly good news. But nonetheless, sirens are going off. We got a nice little kink right there. You can see right there on 160th and just west of 90th Avenue. We're kind of worried about this little area here, but rain is moving away from the radar. Rain moving toward the radar with this green. So right there is maybe some type of a brief spin up that's going on. But there are indications that this is that little kink right there is weakening. I just got a chance to look at what the National Weather Service brought down, that part may actually be weakening just a little bit and becoming a bit less organized. So for now, they're going to keep that warning going on until it cancels about 8:30 or so. We're still getting reports from chasers that there's still some wall clouds, not just one, wall clouds that are out there, and that is a concern about as far as rotation is concerned.
The 80 traffic cams are picking it up, the wall clouds.
The traffic cam is picking it up?
Yep.
Okay.
And we still have that severe thunderstorm warning till 8:30, and that one is still showing destructive winds up to 80 miles per hour, along with some quarter-size hail. So we're dealing with two issues right now. We've got the tornado warning, and if that's not the problem, we're going to be dealing with some strong winds regardless of this tornado warning. So let's go ahead and zoom in just a little bit here. Once again, the biggest threat area right now is just to the east of Bluegrass, right along US Highway 61, and it's just moving into the west side of Davenport along Interstate 280, and it's going to continue to make its way towards the east at about 40 miles per hour. So they have picked up a little bit of speed. So in terms of heavy rainfall, that's some good news we'll take away from it. But still, we're dealing with torrential rain, frequent lightning, and obviously some very, very strong winds moving into the area. John, you got anything for me?
Well, no, but just on kind of what you're just talking about, just open the door, James. I don't know if you saw me do that, but it is just coming down so heavily. Our studios are in Moline, so we're just a little bit ahead of a lot of what you're talking about, but that rain is so heavy, it's building up in our parking lot. I can see it building up on the roads, and which is not obviously of the most urgent thing. The most urgent thing is obviously everything you guys are talking about, but just another thing to be aware of, especially if you're just driving, around. It's going to be difficult to get around, difficult to see as you're on that highway if you're having to drive through something like that.
I think it might be a good idea to even check on those sump pumps in your basement, just to make sure that it's flowing nicely and not overflowing. That's always a big concern when you're dealing with these type of conditions that are going on. So you can see how that is kind of waving its way right along the river itself. With this blinding rain that's going on, but the wind, that is still a concern for us with this storm. So you're getting this tremendous amount of downdraft that's taking place within the storm. At the same time, caught in that downdraft, you're getting some heavy rain. You're also getting some hail. Now, it looks like it has kind of downgraded a little bit as far as the size itself. Half an inch, you're kind of talking mostly about maybe penny-sized hail that may be taking place. Now, keep in mind, these are just kind of estimates that we're noticing here, but nonetheless, at least when it comes to the hail, it's below severe limits. So that is some good news. However, though, with the lightning that's going on, but more importantly that's taking place, are the winds that are taking place. That's the biggest concern that we have. The National Weather Service is still continues to monitor the situation, given the fact that we're getting reports of some wall clouds, several wall clouds just west of the immediate Quad Cities. There hasn't been any drop as far as any funnels or tornadoes, but that's why we continue with this tornado warning. Now, there have been signs that the structure as a whole is actually showing signs of weakening. However, the wall clouds that we're getting reports of are still holding together. So that is what we're keeping a very close eye on when it comes to these particular storms.
I'm going to go back to storm relative velocity. I just want to make sure, see if we have anything going on there. Still watching to the east of Bluegrass, right along Interstate 280 and 61. Nothing sticks out to me right now besides we got that little kink off towards the southeast of Walcott. But like I said, we do not have any confirmation of a tornado right now. Regardless, we still need to take our precautions. You folks know the drill. Lowest level, interior room, put as many walls between you and the tornado as possible. And even if we get through the tornado warning, we're still going to be dealing with some very strong winds out there. And that alone is a reason to take shelter in the lowest level of your house, regardless of the tornado warning or not. And it's moving into the Quad Cities as we speak. The strongest portion of the storm is moving into Andalusia and into Rock Island and Davenport here in the next few minutes. Elsewhere, we've got storms off towards the south. Don't want to forget about you folks down that way. We'll have severe thunderstorm warnings off towards the southwest. Also to the southeast of Kewanee, we have those severe thunderstorm warnings. So it's a very active night here. And if you're out and about on the roadways, well, I wouldn't be, because it's really bad travel out there, especially off towards the south and the east. Still have that flash flood warning for you folks north of Clinton. And we still have that tornado warning in effect for another 23 minutes as it's moving into the Quad Cities right now. Like I said, the good news is it's just a radar-indicated tornado. We have yet to receive any confirmation. James? Yeah,
we probably have another, looks like another 20 minutes or so until hopefully we get the all clear. But even that, keep in mind within this, outside of this polygon, you have this severe thunderstorm warning because of the fact that we're getting reports of winds over 60, 80 miles an hour. Our friends at the National Weather Service getting reports from people at emergency centers in certain towns, certain cities like around Muscatine, getting a lot of pictures of major tree limbs that are down, power lines that are down as well. And very likely indications of what John has been talking about too, with the power outages that have been going on off to our west. The good news here is we just got a report. David out of the National Weather Service says the wind signature on the storm, just got it in now, moving into Rock Island and Scott counties is weakening, but not much. We're still concerned about thunderstorm wind gusts around 70 miles an hour. Once again, you can see how the tornado warning polygon itself kind of shortening up a little bit more. So that is some fairly good news. But once again, we're still noticing it, at least radar indicated, that we are possibly seeing a brief spin up within this rain itself. And kind of focusing when it comes to these winds, you can see pretty intense that we see just along 280 itself, heading its way toward Interstate 80, but it's really south of Interstate 80, right along 280. That's probably where the strongest winds are located. Looks like it's right on, it almost looks like to me, John or Evan, it looks like right on Locust itself.
Yeah, Locust and Telegraph Road, just north of Buckeye Street. Really just moving into the west side of Davenport right now, where we are going to be getting the most intense winds with this storm.
Yeah, so if you plan on heading out, I would just hold tight.
Hold off on it.
Hold off on it. You really got to hold off on it until it pretty much makes its way out of the immediate Quad Cities. You can still see on reflectivity itself, you can almost see just that little bend. We're still noticing that, so we're still getting a good rush of wind coming down from this storm. So that's what we're really concerned about with this particular storm as it continues to make its way east. We're still severe winds that are taking place over 60 miles an hour, even though it has subsided just about 10 miles an hour. That's the only weakening, at least from the reports that we're getting from that particular part of the storm as it makes its way off to the east. So pretty much got another 20 minutes to go on this particular storm. Let's go and put another tracker on this. We haven't done it for a while, but let's put a tracker right around there and then kind of make its way eastward as we go. And you can see around Moline, looking at the clock, it's just a few minutes away. Bettendorf will be right on top of that as well. Over at the airport itself, likely getting some delays with some of the flights that may be leaving this evening. And let's not forget around Silvis at around 8:22. Of course, we're a little concerned given the fact, remember, the TPC at Deer Run, the John Deere Classic, there are tents that are already up. Everything is pretty much, the structures are already up on some of the holes around the golf course itself. So we're kind of hoping that we don't get those intense winds and cause any type of damage out there. So that is what we're keeping an eye on right here. But you can see all the polygons associated with that particular line as it continues to make his way off to the east, Evan.
Okay, yeah, let's recap what we got going on here, folks. They did extend the severe thunderstorm warning. It's now going to move into portions of Henry and Whiteside County. Let me get the time on that one. Same threat. We're talking about winds up to 80 miles per hour and some quarter-size hail, but the big thing to take away, okay, so it's until 9 o'clock, so about another 49 minutes on that severe thunderstorm warning. So you folks in Geneseo, now is the time to start making your preparations. But you know what? Even though you folks aren't under a tornado warning, but just be prepared that you may need to go to the basement. Remember, lowest level interior room. But we are still tracking the tornado warning that is right over the Quad Cities right now. Let's do a little bit of a closer inspection. And there it is, right along Interstate 280. Right now, we are dealing with this potential for a tornado right along Rockingham Road, moving into downtown Davenport, also into the Rock Island area, right along Interstate 280. Once again, this is just radar indicated, so that's the good news there. And let's zoom out here and see what we've got elsewhere. And you can see these storms go all the way back over towards Columbus Junction, off towards the south into Monmouth, and then even off towards the southeast. So we have a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings at this time, and we have that one tornado warning right into the Quad Cities. I want to just double check and make sure we are still sitting with a, yes, we still have a storm capable of producing a tornado at 8:07. It was located over Mississippi Valley Fairgrounds or over far western Davenport. The speed has pulled back a little bit. We're at the east at 35 miles per hour. So still going to be in the Quad Cities here very shortly, momentarily, actually right now, I should say, as it's moving into Davenport and Bettendorf and Moline here in just a few minutes. I can hear the tornado sirens going off right now as we speak. John, you got anything for me? Let me go ahead.
Yeah, Evan, still tracking some of these power outages, and unfortunately the numbers just continue to grow, but that's somewhat to be expected as kind of it takes a while for crews to be able to safely get out to areas and restore power. We're seeing that number grow in Johnson County, and we're beginning to see the numbers begin to kind of go up a little bit in the Quad Cities area, in particular, just kind of a little bit south of the Quad Cities area. So, and that is not exactly what you guys have been tracking, but just some stuff that maybe has occurred on the front end of this.
Yeah, it's good to know, because obviously we're going to have a lot of power outages with those winds that strong. Let's zoom out a little bit here. Boy, it is right on top of us right now, moving into the Quad Cities. Good news is still we just have that radar indicated tornado. The hail's kind of pulled back a little bit. We're looking at about penny-sized hail at best, or at worst case scenario right now. That's not to say it won't get any bigger, but still dealing with those strong winds and torrential downpours and frequent cloud-to-ground lightning.
I was wondering if anyone in the booth,
we have the tower cam we can put.
We can get an eagle eye on the top of the call building in downtown Davenport. I'm not sure if we can actually pop that up if we can, but if not, totally understandable. I mean, given that we're seeing some of that blinding rain taking place, and given the fact that even though sunset is not until about 8:40 or so, which is not about 8:40 or so, it's
dark.
Total darkness that we're dealing there. So I was kind of hoping that we were able to shed a little light, indicating what we're noticing just to the west of us. But and here's something that's interesting: the winds, those intense winds, haven't reached downtown Davenport yet. Usually, we just lose the signal, given the blinding rain, but also the very heavy winds as well. So we're just at least a few minutes away from that. Before that actually impacts downtown Davenport. People taking it very slow. Keep in mind, this rain is really coming down a very short period of time. There are some poor drainage areas out there where we are going to be noticing maybe a little street flooding here and there, and not just in the immediate Quad Cities, but even hometowns just outside of it as well. So
look at those winds. They are strong.
They are still awfully strong. Remember, this has had a history of producing winds around 80 miles an hour in areas around parts of Muscatine County. County. The structure is kind of weakening a little bit, but still getting reports, at least radar indicated, of these intense winds that may be around 60 to even 70 miles an hour. And that is certainly strong enough to produce some damage, produce some power outages, and that's our biggest concern here. So once again, it's all important that, you know, if you do lose power, you make sure that you have a very fully charged flashlight. Hopefully even your phone itself, that your phone is fully charged as well. Most do have a flashlight with it, so that would be some good news as well.
I'm not seeing anything popping out on storm relative velocity, but still, I mean, we're really close to the radar.
We're really close, and we're not seeing much of that kind of that intense blue like we saw earlier, Evan. It seems like that's just more to the north and west of Davenport, maybe right around Kimberly, I would say, and then points northward just south of I-80 there of Davenport. That's probably where the most intense winds are taking place, but we're going to notice it right here. Get a, you know, certainly our own view just outside our station as to the intensity of these winds. We're located in Moline, so Evan, you show, let's just circle Moline right there for people. Where in our get a little bit closer.
Yep, you got it. Let's see.
And you can see where I'll get in here.
Yeah,
you can see where Moline is right
mouse
there.
Died out there. Here we go. All right, here we go. Here's where the
Moline
stations
right
are
there.
at.
And you can see this is what we're a little concerned about with that structure of the storm right here. That's producing some pretty strong winds and continuing to make its way off to the east. So we're going to get a good account here at our station, at least maybe about a couple of minutes or so, how strong these winds are as they make their way eastward. So we're kind of on the just outside. Moline is just on the outside of that tornado warning, but downtown Rock Island, Davenport, you're definitely still into that warning. We still have another 13 more minutes to go until this warning is all said and done. Once this warning does go away, folks, then what we'll very likely do here, and if we continue to see this weaken even more within these next 13 minutes or so, then we're going to go back to network, okay? But make sure that you're watching and monitoring the crawl that you see just below us, okay? When it comes to these warnings that you see here. So basically what we're dealing with here is some very strong thunderstorms that are going on from the immediate Quad Cities and points southward all the way down into around Mercer County. So that's why we're kind of extending these warnings out, letting people know that, hey, we got these storms that are moving in. They're moving very slow. They got some blinding rain. They got a lot of cloud ground lightning with it as well. So that's kind of what we want to make sure that you guys are well aware from Kelowna, just near Geneseo, Cambridge, Woodhull, Orion, Preemption, you name it, that, hey, those storms are coming, and they're coming with a whole lot of extreme weather your way. So keep that in mind. We got another, like I said, 12 more minutes, less than 12 more minutes before that tornado warning is all said and done, Evan.
So far, so good. Like I said, just a radar-indicated tornado at this time. We will certainly take that over an actual tornado any day of the week. But once again, we're still dealing with those very intense winds right now, moving into Davenport, along with the winds, very heavy rain. And James has opened up the door, and you can hear it coming in. It is a very strong rain out there right now. Off towards the southwest, some heavier rain over towards Andalusia. We still have numerous severe thunderstorm warnings out there off towards the south of the Quad Cities, over towards Aledo, Preemption, Cambridge, and just to the west of Geneseo. So you folks in Geneseo, now is the time to start taking your precautions. Remember, you're not in a tornado warning, but if 80-mile-per-hour winds are heading your way, it is going to definitely cause an effect on your town. Let's do a little bit. Hey, one more.
Real quick, in the booth there, could you pull up the camera from on top of the studios for us to see? That's exactly what I've been kind of watching, guys. And one of the things I'm noticing is those trees are beginning to move a lot more. The camera itself is beginning to move a lot more as this storm gets a little bit closer to us. And you can see the lightning just continuing to pop off very, very quickly. I don't know if you can hear it over our mics, but and there's the.
Oh wow! Look at that.
That's incredible.
Oof.
That is really impressive there. And the thing that we still have we had.
That one was right on top.
Just hit our station.
Yep.
That lightning bolt just hit our station right there. Wow. And you can see the visibility actually is okay now, but that's going to change really quick here because I tried to even open the door and I just couldn't. I mean, that.
And look how quickly that cloud is moving.
Yeah.
That is not on any sort of speed up mode. And you can just see that, that moving just across the screen there.
Yeah, and the fact that we couldn't even see downtown Davenport with the Eagle Eye located on top of the call building in downtown Davenport. So, yep, we might get another one here. Yep.
There it is.
I don't recall a time when we've ever gotten hit by lightning in that short period of time. I mean, actually hitting the station. That's pretty intense.
Which is such a good reminder why folks need to be indoors.
That's right. It's so important. You just can't take these lightly. I mean, I always think of it this way, growing up and such. If there was a thunderstorm that was creating a lot of lightning, I consider that a big concern. So we're getting some tremendous cloud-to-ground lightning here at our station right now.
Winds have been downgraded a little bit to 70 miles per hour in the severe thunderstorm warning. Still showing the hail threat has really diminished, but we're still dealing with 70-mile-per-hour winds in the severe thunderstorm warned areas. Still have the tornado warning for about another 9 minutes here in the Quad Cities. As you can hear, the thunder is booming here right now over the studio right now. We'll do a little bit of a closer inspection here to show you folks as it's moving right into the Quad Cities right now. This is our number one concern, just simply because of the fact that it is a tornado warning right here in the Quad Cities. If I can get my mouse to get going, there we go. You can see the heaviest part of the storm is moving in right into the Rock Island area right now, over towards Davenport. Very heavy rain out there as it moves off towards the east, about 40 miles per hour. So regardless of the tornado warning, we're dealing with 70-mile-per-hour winds with this storm. Hail, still not much of a big threat. We might be dealing with some pea-sized hail right now, but we're not seeing anything bigger than that right now. It's less than 3/4 of an inch. And boy, it's continuing to make its way through the Quad Cities, and it's going to be over towards Kelowna into the Geneseo and Orion areas within the next few minutes. Let's put one more tracker on it as this has been updated. And let's see here. It's just moving over to the Quad Cities Airport right now as it moves towards the east, about 40 miles per hour. As you can see, there we go. East Moline, 823 right now, essentially. 825 in Hampton, 834 in Cleveland, and 845 over in the Geneseo area. Once again, this is just a radar-indicated tornado, so that is some good news. And then the other good news is it is moving now at 40 miles per hour, so we do not need the rain here in the Quad Cities. We could use basically no rain right now. We have had way too much, so the good news is it's moving fast, so it'll be out of our area sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think, we can go kind of a twofold on that too, because, we certainly don't want any more heavy rain upstream of the Mississippi River. So that's why we're concerned about all this rain. I've had viewers have talked to me on Facebook and such, and they were saying like, James, we need the rain. I mean, the fields are getting dry. My sod is getting dry. I really need the rain. Makes a lot of sense. You gotta think of it both ways here. So yeah, for everyone who's getting some of that rain, great. We just don't want this rain to come down in a very short period of time. Unfortunately, earlier on this evening, late in the afternoon, especially to hometowns just north of the Quad Cities, we had rainfall amounts on average around 2 inches in a very, very short period of time. So some flash flooding, some high water in some of those rural areas you just can't get around. So that is our concern when we talk about all this rain. Great to see. However, though, we just hate to see it come all at once at a very short period of time. So that's why we're dealing with not only the concern about any street flooding that may be going on, but we have to be concerned about the high winds that are taking place. We're still getting reports of winds approaching 70 miles an hour, some of these storms. That's why we're still dealing with these severe thunderstorm warnings. The good news here is we're not seeing much as far as the rotation that we're seeing at that. The strongest of the winds right now coming down from this storm is actually taking place right now in downtown Davenport and even around Rock Island. I mean, just by looking outside, it's really weird. Just by looking outside, there's an orangey look outside. Why? I have no idea.
How are the winds out there?
The winds are, they're not as intense, which is good.
Okay.
So I think the strongest of the winds themselves are probably now just east of I-74 that crosses the I-74 bridge itself, which I'm not sure we can actually go back to that camera shot now and see. I'm not sure we can actually get that shot anymore, but there it is. And the visibility is starting to weaken a little bit more, but it looks like maybe the strongest of the winds are now just east of the I-74 bridge. Kind of interesting. We're not seeing the lights on the arches out there. Not sure if lightning had something to do with that. We're noticing still some lights that are on and right there on State Street there in Bettendorf, but there's been a good amount of lightning that has been going on, and possibly we could be seeing some brief power outages from this line as it makes its way off to the east. A little darker skies as you make your way more east of the Centennial Bridge, but kind of lightening up a little bit farther that way. So that's maybe a good sign as far as the weather pattern, the system that we're seeing right now, these conditions that we're seeing right now. So that is some fairly good news. Another 5 more minutes here, folks. Another 5 more minutes, and I haven't heard about anything about them extending it. Pardon me?
I'm not seeing anything about an extension on that warning yet.
Yeah, that's some good news. So they're very likely going to cancel this tornado warning. However, though, just keep in mind, we still have that severe thunderstorm warning out extending east of all this, all on the Illinois side of our counties. So just be well aware about the fact that you're going to get some very heavy rain. You're going to get a lot of cloud to ground lightning, possibly some power outages, get some good rush of wind as well. Maybe not as intense now that we're seeing, that's some fairly good news, but you just can't take this lightly as this makes its way across the river eventually. You can see some of the storm reports that we have out there. What do you have out there, Evan, with some of those? And those are all wind, high wind gusts.
High wind gusts. Let's grab a couple of them just to see. You know, we had those tornadoes off towards the south of Cedar Rapids earlier, but we've had, 71 mile per hour wind gust in Wilton, 70 in Muscatine. Yeah, 60 in Muscatine. So 60, 70 mile per hour winds in Muscatine. We did get some hail off towards the southeast of Cedar Rapids, but it doesn't look like we had many hail reports in our direct viewing area. Let's go back to radar, and we're still waiting to see whether or not this is going to drop off or not. The tornado warning for another 3 minutes. Let me zoom in over here. I'll drop the lightning. I think you folks get the picture that it's lightning out there, and you can see still have that tornado warning for another 3 minutes. But you know what? Here, we're going to be, the worst is going to be through the Quad Cities here, probably within the next 10 minutes or so. It's moving toward the east at about 40 miles per hour. The strongest part of the storm right now is just to the southeast of the Quad City Airport, and you can see right along Interstate 280. You folks in Kelowna, you folks in Geneseo, now is the time to make your preparations as this storm is making its way to your area. Right now, we're just dealing with 70 mile per hour winds, gusts up to 70 mile per hour winds, I should say. Not too much of a hail threat, so that's some good news there. We've seen maybe about pea-sized hail recently, but the big thing is the wind. So obviously stay away from windows at this time because 70 mile per hour winds are very dangerous, and we still have the tornado warning in effect for the Quad Cities for another 3 minutes. But the good news is I don't think they're going to extend it.
No, I don't think they're going to, which is some good news, and that's why we're considering about going back to network here in just a couple of minutes or so. But just be aware. Now, we're kind of, some of the storms that we're dealing with right now, even though we're noticing some thunderstorm warnings, is kind of borderline on these warnings that we're dealing with as far as the winds are concerned and as far as the hail. There's not much hail to worry about here that can cause any damage. So the big concern that we're dealing with is going to be some very heavy rain and a lot of cloud to ground lightning that's going on. The possibility of maybe seeing some brief power outages in the areas not just around the airport itself, but a little farther south as you go, heading toward Orion, Osco. Preemption looks like the worst of that storm is now east of you, but areas like our friends in Cambridge, around Woodhall, and then those are got to be concerned about it. But even farther eastward, and we'll likely see these thunderstorm warnings just safe as far as a safe bet is concerned, around Hoople, Anawan, Kewanee, Galva, Bishop Hill. You'll likely see those warnings to your west extend farther east as well.
All right, we got about another 30 seconds on it, and I don't think they're going to extend.
No, they're not going to. Well, I don't think they're going to do it. So, folks, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for being very patient with us when it comes to our severe weather coverage. So we're going to do this, and we're going to go back to CBM wards, and if anything else does pop up that we need to urgently get on, we will let you know right here at WQAD.
See you there, John. I was like, you got anything for me? No, that's fine. Okay.